Inspiration allows you to look at the obvious and see the non-obvious. COSI is at the epicenter of inspiration.
I think inspiration is anything that moves you, makes you want to be better, sparks curiosity and ideas.
Someone you've encountered that actually has a huge impact on your life.
Maybe just makes you look at things a little differently.
And can in fact inspire you to do things that you otherwise never would have done with the course of your life.
Learning is what happens after when you're inspired. You want to learn more.
Inspiration allows us to experience new things, explore the world around us, and achieve our greatest potential. We are fortunate that COSI is a gateway to all of these.
Inspiring is what COSI does.
You see lots of smiles, you see lots of aha moments.
Their ability to teach so much in these fun activities.
Play and learning is for anyone.
If you give me enough time, I will talk about robots all day.
You never stop learning. You shouldn't stop learning.
We give people that little spark of interest in something science related, and then they're able to take it beyond one of our programs, beyond the museum, and really carry that with them.
COSI really puts in all these science experiments and all these things that you wouldn't be exposed normally without this foundation.
Once you get in here and start exploring all the exhibits, I mean, you could spend hours in here, both kids and adults.
As an educator, it is just so inspiring to see what we are able to spark.
Inspiration urges you to be better.
Ohio's a state with a proud tradition of innovation. No one embodies that spirit better than our friend John Glenn.
John Glenn went around the Earth. No one thought humans could get to space until the space race era.
He was a decorated war hero first, a Marine Corps pilot, the longest-serving senator from the state of Ohio.
I look up to John Glenn because, one, he was the oldest astronaut in space. Two, John Glenn was one of the first men to orbit Earth.
There's something about someone doing great things and being one of your own that makes them feel relatable. It makes it feel like amazing things are accessible to you.
He lifted the hopes of the nation and reminded us that we're all more fulfilled when we're involved in something bigger than ourselves.
He found a higher calling in so many ways in serving his fellow citizens, and he inspired so many of us.
And I think that is something that people are really drawn to and they attach to, and it makes them feel something special about what he has done.
Today, with the blessing of the Glenn family, in partnership with this amazing institution that inspires every day, it is my great pleasure to announce the creation of the John Glenn Inspirational Award.
Inspiration allows you to see a spark and create light. Inspiration and creativity allow individuals to look at some sticks, cardboard, and glue and discover DNA. Inspiration allows one to peer in the night sky with clever optics and math and discover black holes. Inspiration allows us to look at the obvious and see the non-obvious. That is COSI, and that is the center of science and industry. Hello, I'm Dr. Frederick Bertley, President and CEO of COSI, the Center of Science and Industry, also the #1 science museum in the nation, according to USA Today. I'm honored to be with you on this truly special occasion. Astronaut Senator John Herschel Glenn was an unparalleled human being. His life's work, commitment, drive, and impact can be felt locally, nationally, internationally, and literally out in our glorious and expansive universe. With such esteemed and celebrated accomplishments and measurable impacts, from serving this great nation as a United States Marine Corps aviator to multiple terms as a successful U.S. Senator, Senator Glenn's character, courage, and grace are as illuminating and captivating as the stars he found himself amongst during his many NASA missions. Imagine this, 6 years ago, In the early 1960s, in a science and engineering field dominated by white men, astronaut John Glenn insisted that the mathematical calculations to ensure the safe liftoff, orbit, and return of his space capsule during the Friendship 7 mission be carried out by a young African-American woman. Yes, it was Glenn who, in an unprecedented display of racial and gender equity, chose Katherine Johnson over her white male colleagues and their computers to do calculations by hand to ensure his safe return home. Katherine Johnson's story was celebrated and memorialized, as it should be, by the best-selling book and subsequent Hollywood film, Hidden Figures. Today, we come together to honor John Glenn and ensure to the world that his incredible achievements and legacy are etched in the annals of history and celebrated for generations to come. In a unique and almost prophetic manner, John Glenn personifies COSI's mission, which is to engage, inspire, and transform lives and communities. It is both in this spirit and with such gravitas that COSI, with support from the Glenn family, has created the first known award bearing this outstanding astronaut and committed senator's name, the John Glenn Inspiration Award. An award of this magnitude and a celebration event of this kind could not be accomplished without tremendous support from a community that has been indelibly impacted by Senator Glenn himself. As such, I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, L Brands, our award sponsors, Nationwide and Greif, our media partner, Columbus Business First, and everyone else that has helped to make today possible, ensuring we could launch this award program with the pomp and circumstance it truly deserves. I would also like to thank the John Glenn Inspiration Award Committee and COSI's Board of Trustees for certifying the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award winner. To share the name of this year's distinguished laureate, I invite Mr. Mike Mahaffey, the Executive Vice President, Chief Strategy and Corporate Development Officer at Nationwide, and the Chair of COSI's Board of Trustees to do the honors.
Thank you, Frederick. And hello to all of you joining us for this celebration. As Chair of the COSI Board of Trustees, it is truly an honor to bestow the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award to Mr. Lou Von Thayer, someone who embodies John Glenn's spirit of innovation in both the private and public sectors. Lou Von Thayer grew up outside Topeka, Kansas, and quickly saw the exciting potential of a career as an engineer. Pursuing his educational interests at Kansas State University and Rutgers University, where he earned bachelor's and master's degrees, respectively, in electrical engineering, Lou went on to a coveted position at industrial giant Bell Laboratories. Throughout his career, Mr. Von Thayer has demonstrated an incredibly innovative spirit and tremendous leadership capacity, both of which supported his John Glenn-esque rocket trajectory in the corporate sector. Mr. Von Thayer accelerated his ascent over 14 years at General Dynamics, starting as Vice President of Engineering and concluding as President, where he had built a multi-billion-dollar business portfolio for the company. Combining his STEM mindset, his vision and creativity, and his business acumen, Lou similarly impacted the security giant Leidos as its president of the national security sector, before transitioning to Battelle as president and CEO, where he has led this esteemed institution for the last 4 years. In his relatively short time at Battelle, Mr. Von Thayer has doubled Battelle's revenues, and by next year, Battelle will have donated approximately $30 million annually to cultural institutions, social services, STEM education, and overall community impact. Both Battelle as an institution and Lou as an individual give generously of their time, their talent, and their treasure, supporting causes that comprehensively help society and our community. COSI is proud to count Lou and Battelle among our leading and most visionary supporters. Mr. Von Thayer's leadership and giving extend well beyond COSI, with voluntary service on the board of TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, Nationwide Children's Hospital, the board of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, where he serves as chairman, and the board of trustees of The Ohio State University, where he chaired the search for new president Christina M. Johnson. These are but a few of his many volunteer leadership positions. From his early days at Bell Labs to his current role as CEO of Battelle, Mr. Von Thayer has demonstrated incredible business acumen, bold vision, and a consistent focus on civic responsibility and philanthropic commitment. His professional accomplishments and remarkable community impact are truly inspirational. And so, Mr. Lou Von Thayer, on behalf of COSI and my colleagues on the Board of Trustees, and with the support of the John Glenn family, it is my pleasure to be the first to officially congratulate you on being the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award laureate. At this time, I would like to introduce the John Glenn Inspiration Award Committee Chair and co-founder of the New Albany Company, Mr. Jack Kessler. Mr. Kessler, thank you for your support and service in chairing this award committee.
Senator John Glenn. He was our hometown hero, making countless contributions in the realm of science and public service. John was a remarkable man with an extraordinary commitment to making a difference. I worked alongside John for many years and witnessed his ability to inspire others. Through our time together, I gained the great privilege of calling Senator Glenn a colleague and a thought partner. Across the years, as I grew to know John, Annie, and their family, I saw firsthand their commitment to our community and country. I witnessed his capacity to inspire others through his work, his action as a U.S. Senator, as an astronaut, and as a citizen. It is my great honor to help recognize another inspiring leader, Lou Von Thayer, as a 2021 John Glenn Inspiration Award recipient. It is fitting that the inaugural honoree has a career and impact so rooted in science, technology, and public service. Lou is committed to science and technology for the greater good. His leadership advances Battelle's work as a major force in discovering and innovation that have significant economic impact. Lou, congratulations on this very deserved honor.
L Brands is proud to support COSI as the presenting sponsor of the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award. Congratulations to Lou Von Thayer for this very well-deserved honor. Your work has inspired so many young minds, and for that, we thank you.
Lou Von Thayer, my hero. What a Superman, a person who can do anything he puts his mind to, and what a great honoree for the John Glenn Award. John was one of those exceptional individuals who I had a privilege of getting to meet late in life. And he was my role model. And I'm sure for millions of Americans, he was throughout his life. And you too, Lou, are a role model for all of us. Your incredible competence in science, in management and leadership, your huge heart in giving back to the community, and your leadership in everything you do and the values you bring to all of us. Very much appreciated. And congratulations, Lou. What a wonderful moment this is for you. Well deserved. Thank you for all you do for all of us.
Lou, I'm very excited to join so many others in congratulating you on this year's John Glenn Inspiration Award. Your commitment to Columbus, your leadership inside of Battelle and in every corner of our community, and the impact that you're making in everything that you do is indeed inspirational. And as we all are, John Glenn would be inspired himself. You're making a difference every single day in little ways and in big ways that I get the privilege of getting to see. We all appreciate your commitment to our community and the difference that you're making. A hearty congratulations as this year's John Glenn Inspiration Award winner.
On behalf of the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, our board of directors, and the families of America's fallen heroes, it's my great pleasure to add all our voices in congratulations to Lou Von Thayer in receipt of the John Glenn Inspiration Award, recognizing an extraordinary individual who has dedicated his life to inspiring others for the good of humankind. Lou, we're so grateful to have you on our board, to have your leadership and your guidance, your care for the families of our fallen. You truly understand what service and sacrifice is all about. We love you, we appreciate you, and we congratulate you. Well done.
Hey, Lou, congratulations on being the inaugural honoree of the John Glenn Inspiration Award. The Center of Science and Industry could not have picked a better person for this award. John Glenn exemplified community leadership, statesmanship, focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. And those are the same qualities that you demonstrate each and every day in this community. We all appreciate the work that you've done, not only relative to locally, but nationally as well during COVID and otherwise. So thanks again for all of your efforts, and really it's such richly deserved the recognition that you're receiving today. So again, congratulations, and I've got Mr. Spock up there in your honor as well. See you, Lou.
I'm John Welch, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I'd like to start by congratulating COSI staff on their continued contributions to the Columbus community and the recognition that they received nationally from USA Today last December as the #1 science museum in America. Well done. I can think of no more worthy recipient for the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award than Lou Von Thayer. John Glenn inspired many to reach for the stars through his technical and leadership skills as a Marine pilot, as an astronaut, and as a distinguished U.S. Senator. Lou has provided the same drive and leadership throughout his career, first at Bell Labs, then with several defense contractors, and now as the president and chief executive officer of Battelle Memorial Institute. Lou is about solving problems, motivating a team towards excellence, and really making a difference in everything that he does. Whether it be in the surveillance programs that he worked early in his career at Bell Labs, or bringing together a team of people to solve the problems associated with N95 masks at the beginning of the pandemic, and finding a way to sterilize and renew those masks when the supply shortages were a real problem for the country. It is my pleasure to sit here and watch the continued success of Lou and his team at Battelle. But I am especially proud of him for the contributions that he has made to the community and continues to make to society in general. Lou, it's a real pleasure to see you get this recognition, and all of us at Battelle and those that have known you throughout your career congratulate you heartily. Well done.
Hello, Lou. On behalf of NASA's Glenn Research Center, I would like to extend our congratulations to you on your selection as the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award winner. Throughout our history, NASA, Glenn, and Battelle has collaborated in both space and aeronautics. In 2019, we saw firsthand your exceptional support of NASA in playing a key role in our Name the Mars 2020 rover contest. This highlighted your profound appreciation for deep space exploration and innovation. As NASA aims to inspire the next generation of explorers, we commend you for the extraordinary individual that you are, and look forward for seeing how you will inspire future generations for years to come. Again, congratulations on this inaugural award.
Well, Mr. Lou Von Thayer, congratulations, and I want to show you the inaugural John Glenn Inspiration Award.
Wow.
How about that? Definitely inspired by the celestial heavens in the honor of John Glenn, and made here by a local artist in Franklinton.
It's beautiful, Frederick.
Absolutely. And I thought, you know, we wanted to figure out when could we kick off the John Glenn Inspiration Award. And as you know, this is our Science Festival week, and we couldn't be more honored that Battelle, turns out, is the lead sponsor for the Science Festival. So thank you again for that amazing support. But now we've capped it with this incredible John Glenn Inspiration Award, and you being the inaugural winner.
Frederick, I can't tell you how humbled I am that you would actually pick me out of all the choices that you had, and I'm very honored.
So, Mr. Von Thayer, as our inaugural winner, not only do you get to blaze a path on what we're hoping is really a worldwide significant award, but you also are subject to having to do a fireside chat. And in this case, that happens to be with me. So are you willing to have a conversation?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So one of the cool things, I mean, again, honoring, the great John Glenn, we really wanted to make sure these fireside chats really dove into thematic issues. And so the first one for this year is around the spirit of philanthropy. And how can we think about that? And I know both you, your Mrs. Jennifer, and of course your family have a great legacy in that too. We'll get to that in a minute. But so that's going to be our theme. But to get us there right now, I want to talk about a little bit about your background. Let's get to know you a little more. I know you're an engineer. Talk to us as to why you picked engineering. How did you get into that field, or why did you get into that field?
Well, if I can start with John Glenn. I grew up in the 60s as a kid, and it was an exciting time. Space was starting to happen. I was a little young when John Glenn went up, but I got to watch Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. I still remember watching that in the black and white TV with my parents in the living room and how momentous that was. I used to keep a scrapbook of all the newspaper headlines and things that came out in those days. And I think I was always interested in how things worked and building things. But really, I kind of became an engineer by accident. Okay. I had gone in high school. I don't think I'd met a real engineer in my life up till that point. And I had a science teacher who said I should go into engineering because I'm good at math.
Okay.
And I kind of said, okay, it makes sense. And I talked to my dad about it. He'd never got his engineering degree, but had done work like that and was in charge of maintaining equipment at a Goodyear plant, and was very handy and taught me how to do a lot of things. So that's kind of what led me that direction. And then I grew up in a family where you had to make your own way. So it was important for me that whatever I did, I'd be able to take care of myself.
So that's fantastic. And by the way, I didn't know that space history of yours. So we are sitting inside COSI, the Center of Science and Industries, the nation's #1 science museum, according to USA Today. And we're sitting in the planetarium under these gorgeous stars. So I didn't know it at the time, but really was for you.
Beautiful spot.
You got it. All right. So you talked about, you were great in math and some different advice, and your father was a great kind of engineer-minding person. And so that all led you to pursue that. One of the cool things about engineering and STEM in general is the lion's share of these enterprises is to ameliorate the human condition, engineer better drugs, better roads, safer cars, coming out with vaccines, other medicines, GPS, cell phones, how we communicate with other people. I mean, so much of science, and especially engineering, is to help people. We're going to get to that from a philanthropic lens too in a minute, but at what point in your career did you realize, hey, not only am I good at math and I'm really having fun with this, but I can really significantly help people? Because that's also part of Batel's mission as well.
Well, as I started taking engineering classes in college, you got to start tinkering and start to build cool things and start to, friend's dad had a Dairy Queen and the transformers kept going out. So we built a little power monitor, out of breadboards in the laboratories or learning how to do these things.
Now, was that just to get free ice cream?
You got a little bit, but not so much. But it's just because it was cool, something fun to build. But I think as I was very fortunate. From college, I got a job at Bell Laboratories, which was kind of the Google and Apple and everything rolled together back in the day, and just got to work on so many things that were challenging. None of them had ever been done before, and they were all about doing something better, making phone calls cheaper, connecting people in a better way, doing things. And now at Batel, you can really see these things come together, and the pandemic's a great example.
Sure.
From work we had done, I think I grew up in the golden age of electronics. I think today's the golden age of biology, and we're starting to see that take off. And we were part of building these vaccines for research that had been gone on for the last decade or so, and never before has the world seen vaccines come together this quickly, and we were really proud to be a part of that. We had other tools and techniques we were able to develop that got deployed around the country, and they were things that when the emergency happened, we didn't worry about the money. We said, we'll figure that out later and just go do the right thing. And our scientists, engineers who also believe in making a difference in the world, literally worked around the clock for months and months and months. A lot of 100-hour weeks for the first 6 months of this pandemic.
Wow, 100-hour weeks. That's fantastic. And so, and you did talk about Bell Labs, and you went real quickly, kind of the Google of back in the day, but really that's astonishing. I mean, Bell Labs is one of the greatest research institutions of all time, frankly. And now of course you have Batel, and you talked about the great work you're doing. Those of you who haven't seen it, definitely go to the Batel website. There's some amazing things that you can see, videos, all kinds of fantastic stuff. But as this conversation is about philanthropy, I personally know how much Batel does for the community, for society, for the world. But can you share some of what Batel does specifically on the philanthropic or give back place, especially under your leadership?
Sure, I'd love to. In fact, that's part of what drove me to Battelle. I was at a point in my career where my wife and I really didn't have to work anymore, but we weren't ready to call it a day yet. We still had a lot of gas left in the engine, and this opportunity just seemed so wonderful. I'd never done a nonprofit, a not-for-profit before, and the fact that we give back, instead of a for-profit company that basically pays shareholders in dividends and does things like that, we take our profits and we give them away to the community, really focused around STEM. So Battelle's been involved forever in STEM education for kids around the country. 3 or 4 years ago when I got here, we were in the 150,000 kids a year we were impacting. We set a goal to get to 1 million kids a year, and last year we hit 410,000. So our team is really on the way to do that, and we're doing it nationwide and in many, many different ways, working with hundreds of partners around the country. We run the Metro Early College School here in Columbus, and we've been doing that for about 15 years now, and have actually built a model where the kids come in by a random lottery from some of the toughest school districts in the area, and they all succeed. They all graduate high school, they all get accepted into college, and the vast majority go. So to go over there and see those kids, it warms your heart.
Sure.
We got involved in the pandemic. We were able, because we've been making more money, we've been doing better the last few years. We've almost doubled the size of the company in the last 3.5 years. So we've been able to step up and help with the food bank. We've been able to help with Urban League. We've been able to help with trying to get computers and broadband wireless to families that didn't have that. Well, the kids and families are trying to work from home.
Sure.
So just so many places. And we were doing about $6 million a year when I came in, and with all the success and all the great work that our team's done, this year that number will be $18 million. So we've tripled the amount we're able to give to the community, and next year it might actually hit 30 because we're having another great year and we're continuing to grow pretty rapidly.
That is fantastic. So just to be clear, we're talking about the money Battelle gives away for these community-centered, from STEM to environmental to neighborhoods. You're talking a group from 60, and now you're approaching
6 to 30.
6 to 30 million.
Next year, we'll be close to 30.
Wow, fantastic. That's extraordinary.
And there's nothing funner for a CEO than wake up in the morning and know you get to work with your team to figure out how to give away more good money to help great causes.
Well, for the record, I'm on the other side of that CEO divide where I'm looking for doing it. But as you know, Battelle's a huge supporter of COSI, and we appreciate that dearly. So that's interesting. So I want to peel back, though, because you're an engineer. Clearly, the output or outcomes or intent for engineers are to do stuff that almost always is to better humanity. Now you're on this side of the equation, on the philanthropic side, where again, much of that is to give away talent, time, and treasure, translates giving it into your volunteering time and money to help move the needle forward for whatever the cause. And so they're both interesting. On the one hand, you have STEM, that's to advance the human condition. But philanthropy, similarly, is to advance the human condition. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. Before we get to that, you mentioned your wife. You and Jennifer, you do so much. You talked about Battelle, and I know this from experience. You guys do a lot in your professional sectors, but even in your personal lives, you're very generous for volunteering on boards, and you're very generous with your donations financially. Talk to us about kind of what's that spirit in the household that you and Jennifer are like, we got to do this.
Yeah, so we've always been involved. Obviously, before we got to Battelle, we both. I was the first in my family to go to college. My siblings didn't; their kids didn't. I've got a daughter who's a doctor now, and a son who's a financial CPA. And just feel so fortunate. The ability for me to go to college, I paid my own way and did student loans and all those things that are so important to help kids get through college. Took 10 years to pay them back and did the whole bit, but. The life it's given me, I could have never dreamed of.
Sure.
And we feel that it's really important to give some of that back. And for that, earlier in your career, you don't have very much money, but you have more time. So you tend to give more time. Later, have a little balance of both. And as we've been fortunate to have more resources, we feel it's really important. For Jennifer, it's all about the animals. And in fact, we've even started fostering pups during COVID. We've always had cats and done the cat side. And now we'll have a pup coming through the house every couple of weeks, in addition to our financial support. With canine companions, lots of things that she does. She's on the zoo board. And for me, it's about first generation kids getting to school and kids that wouldn't have the exposure, wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise. And anything we can do, because you don't only change that kid's life, but you change their family's life forever. If they get that degree and suddenly they can take care of themselves, and suddenly if they're working at some place that's not treating them fairly, they can just pick up their skills and go somewhere else, and they'll be open arms waiting somewhere else. It sets them on a path that just you never look back.
Well, look, that's incredible. From urban leagues to zoos to science museums like COSI to libraries. To the canine. Just that whole ecosystem support that you and Jennifer do is fantastic. And again, therein lies why you are the inaugural winner of the Senator Astronaut John Glenn. Totally deserving for what you've contributed professionally and of course personally. So that's great. All right, so let's dive into some interesting aspects around philanthropy that are bubbling up in the national discourse. And in particular, how they're starting to be at least conversations around potentially shifting. A great example of this was captured in a recent appearance by the Ford Foundation CEO, great gentleman named Darren Walker. He's been on 60 Minutes. He's been in New York Times, written a bunch about this. And, he has an interesting view that he's pushing the philanthropic community and the general big business and individual donor community to think about. And so he argues, amongst other things, and this is a quote. Now, the Ford Foundation is arguably one of the largest foundations in this country, one of the largest foundations in the world. And he says that we are at a place where foundations have to do more. The question for wealthy, privileged people and institutions is not how much do I give back, but how much am I willing to give up? So I got to ask you, what are your thoughts about that as an uber generous individual and family, as a super generous, corporate leader, in the case of heading up Battelle? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think it's a nice balance that hopefully we're starting to see with all the very challenging discussions we're having around our society in the last couple of years between pandemic and race and all these things going on. Our country, I'm my heart and soul, I'm still a hardcore capitalist, right?
Sure.
Because I believe that's built the best economy and that builds the best society the world's seen. And without the resources, it's very hard to do all the other things you want to do.
Absolutely.
And I think governments should actually do those things that governments should do, but governments will always be inefficient. It's just how they're put together, how they're organized, how it's going to be. So I think for the private sector to be able to come together and particularly pool those resources and foundations, wealth coming out of corporations that have been successful. The value is not just how much money do you have in the bank, it's what can you do with it. And I think it's a really important, and I think there's an opportunity right now we have in this nation where we can step up and do some more, and you're starting to see it happen. You're starting to see so many more scholarship funds going into places they didn't go before. You're starting to see so much more focus after the pandemic on food health, and we're starting to get more focused on the environment. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity. A personal note, this is also something else that Jennifer and I think about a lot. And our children, we've told them we're going to give you enough to help pay off the loans and get a little bit of a start when we go, but hopefully we'll be here a long time. But we're giving the rest of it away.
Okay.
And I've seen too many.
The Buffett model.
Yeah, and I've seen too many friends of mine who have been very fortunate. They've built wonderful companies, and the next generation doesn't always turn out quite like they hoped.
Sure.
And I think not only I think there's a pride in earning it yourself and doing those things, but there's also, I think, a responsibility and a learning that you want to have on that responsibility to give back along the way.
Sure.
And make sure you're comfortable. Maybe you don't need that car for a couple more years, and there's somebody else can use that more at this point in time.
Well, that's definitely a great kind of ethic to live by. They talk about you can lose wealth in 3 generations, I think is what they say. So that's great to take care of our loved ones. But, again, a lovely model, you and Jennifer, your willingness to give away beyond taking care of your immediate ones. So that's fantastic. And that was Darren Walker's perspective, which, great perspective. And again, he's stimulating this fantastic national discussion. I have a personal philosophy that I was hoping to kind of run by you around philanthropy. Can I run it by you?
Sure.
Okay. So it's a little risque, but it's this idea as a kid, and I'm sure the same with you. I grew up hearing, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. And, as a kid, you believe it. And as an adult, I realized that was the emperor has no clothes or new clothes, biggest scam ever.
Yeah, that was before social media.
That was before social media. Names and words definitely can hurt you. And more importantly, words matter. And so in this conversation around philanthropy, I want to share something that, I don't know if it's perceived radical or not, but I think it just makes logical sense. And that's how we define certain spaces. So we talk about the for-profit world. And I, too, am a capitalist. I love how that model works for all the reasons you talked about. But we define the for-profit world, and you can distill it down to all kinds of things. It comes down to making money. Yeah. We can simplify it for the sake of this conversation. For-profit means making money. And then there's this whole other aspect of society, this whole other ecosystem that we call the non-for-profit world. The zoos, the libraries, COSI, science museums, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, etc. And it's interesting. And so when you think about for-profit for money, but the reason why cultural institutions exist, or these non-for-profit institutions exist, is to ameliorate the human condition. That's why we have libraries. If you read, you can get educated and get elevated. You go to the zoo, you get enhanced experiences. You come to COSI, the #1 science center, you will get really great experiences that might have you think about stuff. You might not become a scientist, but you'll feel better because of it. Art museum, etc. Right? It's important to go to these cultural institutions because holistically they raise us up as people. And so my argument, my thesis here is, why do we call that nonprofit? I mean, it should be human profit or, civilization profit. And the reason why I think that's important is when we talk about investing and making money, people get that right away and they're willing to throw lots of money at certain things because they're hoping for returns. But my argument is that the quality of life for all humans is possibly the biggest return that any investment can get. And if we as nonprofit institutions, including Battelle, which I want you to lead off with that as your answer. If we reframe that definition and call us for-profit, but in the human capital or civilization department, maybe we'll get bigger checks cut at the end of the day because they'll see the return on investment is as good as investing in a new company that's some software technology. So what are your thoughts? How far off am I, or is this something that I should follow up on?
First, I think it's a really interesting idea, Frederick, and it also makes it very clear why everyone should hire you to be their marketing manager. I think it's a great idea. I think of nonprofit and for-profit as simply something you do with the IRS, and everything else is about the mission you do as an organization and where you derive your value from. And I know at Battelle, when we support organizations, we tend not to support the same organizations forever on purpose because we want to help them get off the ground, help them build a sustainable model, and then help build something else. So over time, you're stacking these on top of each other, and basically you want to raise everybody up. So I think the branding around calling it something other than for-profit for organizations, because Boy Scouts wouldn't exist, Girl Scouts wouldn't exist. The exposure to hundreds of thousands or millions of kids every year that come in here wouldn't get that exposure if this organization didn't exist, is really, really important. And obviously we care about it because all those corporations there pay money to give it. And the question is, with some good branding, could you get a little bit more? And I think it's a good idea. And I also think the pandemic has also driven us to think about these things more. A lot of things we took for granted before, as we've lost loved ones, as we've watched people suffer around the world and continue to suffer. We're pretty lucky in the United States now. We're starting to get caught up on vaccines, and I'm starting to see, and hopefully our country is going to give hundreds of millions of vaccines to the rest of the world as fast as we can make them. But we're very fortunate to be here and be a little bit ahead of the curve now, and maybe not quite there yet, but in the next month or two, starting to take a deep breath. So I think the time's right. I think, Frederick, you start that marketing campaign.
All right. Well, the first proposal is coming over to Battelle. I'll tell you that. Just kidding. Well, look, I really appreciate that you sharing that in that perspective. And again, we think about why we give awards and why we recognize people. It's not to pin another medal on your chest. You have so many awards and trophies. This is to just recognize the great men and women, the great people that dedicate their lives to doing good. And without question, your history, grinding through college, picking yourself up by the bootstraps, getting into Battelle, creating this huge, amazing career, crescending it at a non-for-profit institution like Battelle that's all about helping people, just, again, really typifies what COSI is trying to do to honor the great astronaut Senator John Glenn with this John Glenn Inspirational Award. So with that, I want to thank you and congratulate you again for being the inaugural winner. I know John Glenn is looking down on us from some place in the space that he's orbiting. Just really proud about our decision. So thank you very much, Mr. Von Thayer.
And again, I couldn't be more humbled, and thank you so much. I am truly honored. This is special. This is a special one, Frederick.
An absolute pleasure. All right. Well, we talked about it being a challenging year. And it certainly has been a challenging year for everyone, including COSI. But we've been super excited with all the things that we've been able to do, like many of our colleagues in cultural institutions. But I do want to say, I want to encourage all of our viewers, each and every one of you, to feel comfortable donating to not just COSI, but COSI and all the other institutions that you choose to support. We love science. We say science is everywhere and for everyone. So we'd love for you to start with COSI at the top of your list, but this is about supporting all the great cultural institutions that are around. So thank you very much for that.
Since 1964, COSI has been your partner in science, technology, and industry learning, offering incredible, engaging experiences for those of all ages. Over the last year, COSI has taken science into our community and beyond in new and innovative ways. With our physical doors closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we doubled down on our commitment that science is for everyone, everywhere. Our impact has grown, and we have strived to meet our community where they are, to provide science education and literacy at a time when it has never been more important. COSI Connects, our online portal to hands-on science activities and videos. This free digital resource allows anyone to engage with the fun of COSI. Citizen science projects, 3D tours of COSI exhibitions, and virtual programs. Bringing COSI's inspirational experiences to all, with hands-on science kits delivered in partnership with meal providers and social service agencies. Partners helping to create incredible science content and making it accessible to all. The Color of Science, featuring the stories and impact of incredible STEM advocates and professionals of all backgrounds making a difference, showing the next generation of leaders they too can pursue a career in a science-related field. Taking the COSI Science Festival digital and reaching more than 100,000 people. Reimagining fundraisers, Camp Out helped raise critical funds while being a community resource that allowed kids from all over to experience the fun of summer camp and learn a little science along the way. COSI continues to engage, inspire, and transform lives and communities by being the best partner in science, technology, and industry learning. We are grateful to have brought science education to the community this past year and are excited about continuing forward with this work. In the fall, we will launch The Platform, a comprehensive program that begins with middle school-aged kids and follows them to college while providing resources, education, and support to allow underserved students to advance to STEM careers. We could not do any of this without your support. Please consider a gift to allow us to continue our work of creating nurturing environments that foster inspiration, innovation, and education for learners and scientists of all ages.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program. I want to thank all of you for being with us today, especially you generous supporters and sponsors for making this event possible. Thank you, and once again, congratulations to Mr. Lou Von Thayer, the inaugural winner of the John Glenn Inspirational Award.